How to make an easy sugarcane farm in Minecraft. These are resources you will need for this farm. So anyways, let's get into it. Alright, so for the resources I mentioned, this farm is going to be 5 long. However, you can very easily expand it in multiple ways, and I'm going to show you how to do that at the end. But anyways, let's start with the basics of the farm. Alright, so the first thing you need to do is break yourself a 5 block long row into the ground, pretty much like this. Then going in the middle right here, so for the third block going, well, either way, you need to break 1 block towards you. Place a chest right here with then 5 hoppers going into that chest. Then once you've done that, you're going to have to place yourself 1 mud on top of each of the hoppers, and we're pretty much going to plant the sugarcane on top of the mud. And the reason we're using mud is because mud kind of counts as a half block, which means that the sugarcane that breaks in the farm is going to be able to go through the mud, into the hoppers, and then into the chest. Alright, so once you've placed this, head on top of here, then go 2 blocks back from the mud, 1, 2, then place yourself a block row right here. Then what you will have to do is place yourself a water source right here to make sure you can actually grow sugarcane on top of the mud. But of course, once you do that, the water will flow outwards, so what you can do is simply place yourself a block on the sides right here. You can also expand that 1 more going forward to make the farm look a bit nicer, like for example like this. And then what you will have to do is place yourself a row of blocks on top of the water with then a row of pistons on top of those blocks. And then to make sure we can actually detect the sugarcane and allow the pistons to push forward, you need to head behind what you've built so far, place yourself a row of blocks behind these pistons. Then on top of the pistons, look at the pistons and place yourself an observer. So now the little redstone eye should be looking back towards pretty much above this block, and the little face should be looking the same way the pistons are. Then you will have to place yourself some redstone dust right here. Once something hit the observers, as you can see, the pistons should be pushed forward. So what you can do now is pretty much plant yourself with sugarcane right here, and then the last step is pretty much just to cover up the front of the farm to make sure the sugarcane isn't pushed out. And you can do that pretty much any way you want. So you can do something like this, and then for example add a glass to the front, and obviously blocks to the side to make sure nothing falls off to the side. And boom, now the farm is actually done. And you can of course build a roof above this too if you want to, but you don't need that. But if you want it to look nicer, then this is fully possible. And just to show you how this works, as you can see, whenever the sugarcane grows up, what will happen is that it will hit observers, and observers will then activate the pistons, and yeah, this happens. And of course, if we then look into the chest, all the sugarcane will then end up inside the chest. So yeah, that is pretty much that. However, I did also mention in the intro that I was going to show you how to expand it. So let me show you that. Now, there are 2 ways of expanding a farm like this. One is pretty much building the farm sideways, and one is duplicating it by rotating it 180 degrees. So for example, you can very easily expand this farm by simply adding more things to the side. So if I break out this, I can simply just add, for example, more hoppers going into here, then more mud, and of course more blocks with more pistons, etc, etc. Or if you don't want to build it sideways, as in further out, there is another way to expand it, making it a bit more space compact. Now the first way of doing that is that you will have to destroy the kind of front layer of blocks and stuff you have, which is in front of the sugarcane, and you will also have to remove the location of this chest, and you will have to replace all the hoppers. So instead of all the hoppers going into a chest right here, you're going to need to place yourself a chest on one of the sides, then run a double line of hoppers pretty much going into the chest from under the mud and from the block that's in front of the mud. Then you're simply going to take what you built so far, rotate it 180 and copy it right here. So start by placing mud right here, place yourself 5 blocks, 2 blocks behind the mud, water source in between here, and now you should be able to plant the sugarcane of course. Then you can simply expand obviously these blocks going upwards, then add yourself some pistons right here, observers right here, blocks behind those pistons, then redstone dust, and yeah, that is pretty much that. And to make sure I can watch the farm, just to show you how this works, I'm obviously going to add some glass in front and over here just to make this look a bit nicer, and you can actually move the chest 1 back to save yourself some hoppers. So yeah, as you can see, this is another way to expand the farm, and now you have 10 sugarcane growing, and you're taking up a bit less space instead of having 10 sugarcane growing right next to each other. And you can of course expand this, this way too. So yeah, anyways, that is it for this one, and that is how you build a very easy and very efficient sugarcane farm. So anyways, that is it for this one, and yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions about how this works, feel free to ask me down below, and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. So anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.